Hey, how we doing, gang? Kawaii50 here with another FGO video, and your canon wife has arrived. I don't make the rules, Nasu does. It is time to talk about Morgan Le Fay. We're going to be going over the best allies, craft essences, and command codes, because if you pull her, you will use her on your team, won't you? That'd be kind of upsetting if you didn't. Anyways, I hope this video helps you out. Seriously, use her on your team. If you pull her. Seriously, do it. Hope this video helps you out. If it does, be sure to go ahead, like, and subscribe. Now that I have hammered home the use her if you summon her on your team, like use her. Okay, I think we're done hammering that home. Let's go ahead and get started. Morgan's deck consists of 1 quick, 2 arts, and 2 buster cards with an AoE Buster Noble Phantasm. And NA, you're going to realize how important that AoE Buster Noble Phantasm is. Taking a look at Morgan's stats, her max HP is at 12,440, which is honestly irrelevant considering her Berserker class. She is absolutely made of paper. What is relevant is her max attack of about 12k. This is fairly substantial, and you will see her dealing some damage. NP per hit is alright, but considering the main team setup a lot of people are going to be using her with, that is fairly irrelevant, as is her star absorption of 10 thanks to one of her skills. Morgan's first skill is Charisma of Desire rank B. This is a party-wide attack increase of 10 to 20%, a 20 to 30% NP steroid for her, and also reduces all enemies' defense by 20 to 30% for 3 turns, really helping with that Noble Phantasm damage. We are going to want to level this in tandem with her second skill, because honestly, those first 2 skills are really the most important thing when it comes to using Morgan Le Fay effectively. Morgan's second skill is Protection of the Lake rank C. This charges one ally's Noble Phantasm gauge by 10 to 20%. You're usually going to be using this with Morgan to give her that coveted 50% NP steroid. This also increases the party's NP generation rate by 15 to 25% for 3 turns. Again, super relevant for Morgan Le Fay when it comes to how we're going to be using her. Like I said, level this in tandem with the first one. And Morgan's final skill is Beyond the Furthest End rank A. This is her survivability skill, granting her gut status once for 3 turns. This is also her critical damage skill, enabling you to use her as a boss killer, increasing her star absorption by 3,000 to 5,000% as is needed on Berserkers. Just look at Mama Raiko, for example, and also buffing her critical damage by 20 to 30%. This also grants her a buff called Regeneration. What this does is it reduces the enemy's attack and critical attack chance, giving a little bit of extra survivability to your team, though you still don't want your enemies attacking Morgan at all. This also grants another 5 to 15 meaty critical stars when using this skill as well. Fairly stacked, a solid survivability tool, but honestly, considering we only get an additional 10% critical damage scaling off of this and an extra 10 stars, it is safe for us to level this last. It's not as integral to Morgan's kit. When it comes to Morgan's append skills, there's 2 we want to focus on. The first being extra attack finesse improvement, increasing her damage, NP gain, and star generation on that extra card. Really solid for any and all Berserkers, since you're usually going to be hitting enemies with that Brave Chain. Her second skill is, of course, mana loading. This is great on absolutely every character in the game, but is honestly fairly integral for Morgan Le Fay, because it makes farming with her a hell of a lot easier.
慈悲だ。神戸を垂れよ。恐怖はない。希望もない。ただ、罪人のように死ね。何匹も。通るにあたわず。
And Morgan's amazing Noble Phantasm you just saw was Roadless Camelot, the now unreachable Utopia. This increases her damage against Round Table Knight or Fey enemies by 50% and activates before damage is dealt. Related to Overcharge effect, this also deals extra damage to enemies with the Man attribute, so she can basically slay any of the Round Table Knights without worry. However, what is most important on this is the damage and the other additional effect this Noble Phantasm has. This is a solid 300 to 500% damage to all enemies, and considering her Berserker class, this is going to hit fairly hard. This inflicts all enemies with a curse. Most importantly, this overcharges the party's Noble Phantasm by 1 stage, 1 time for 3 turns. So if you want to get that extra overcharge effect against man enemies, well, Morgan is going to be hitting that bonus on subsequent waves because she is going to overcharge herself as well. Isn't that freaking phenomenal? And this is just going to keep going as you go ahead and farm. You don't necessarily need to look out for enemies with the man attribute though. Morgan is going to be able to farm just fine with the following allies. So when it comes to allies, it's pretty indisputable who Morgan's best ally is, and that is Koyana Manawena Chihuahua. Koyanskaya Mayabaya. Okay, I'm done with that bit. Koyanskaya is able to enable Morgan Le Fay to Buster farm. Buster farming is here, and Morgan Le Fay will be the premier option. So when Koyanskaya comes out, you're going to want to go ahead and pair her with Morgan Le Fay. In addition to that, there is also Oberon. Now, Oberon is sort of a premium option when it comes to using Morgan Le Fay. Having Oberon gives her a significant damage increase, but is not necessarily necessary when it comes to using her to farm. If you don't end up having an Oberon, you're just gonna need a craft essence with a higher starting NP gauge, so she is able to get those 3 turns. If you have Oberon, however, and 2 Koyanskayas, you are going to be able to comfortably 3-turn Buster farm with Morgan Le Fay. It is super duper easy. If you want to use your Morgan for challenge quests, however, or any sort of boss fights in the story, well then I would recommend running a Merlin instead, just because Merlin is really able to help Morgan's overall survivability. That is very, very important when it comes to those longer form fights. So let's talk craft essences. If you don't have an Oberon on your team, you're gonna need a Kaleidoscope on Morgan Le Fay to farm. That is just necessary even if you end up having multiple Koyanskayas. You just need that additional boost from the starting NP charge. It doesn't necessarily have to be max limit broken, but you might want to invest a little more in Morgan's append skill to make up for that detriment. If you happen to have the double Koyanskaya Oberon super premium setup, well then a couple of other options open up for you. And both of the options I'm going to recommend are actually free. You just have to have been playing the game for a little while. Aerial Drive grants Buster Card effectiveness, NP strength, and a 50% starting NP gauge if you max limit broke it. This is excellent when it comes to enabling Morgan Le Fay's farming. You can also consider something like Holy Knight's Supper, granting NP damage, starting NP gauge, and a little bit of extra critical damage. This might end up being your option if you have a boss you're unsure if you're going to be able to slay in 3 turns. Give Morgan a little bit extra critical damage to finish that boss off. So let's talk command codes. When it comes to Morgan Le Fay's command codes, we can actually build all of her command codes around her fighting specific bosses. You don't need to worry about doing it so much for farming. We actually don't necessarily even want to do that because, well, if you're using one of those NP charged command codes, there is potential that Morgan will end up killing whatever she ends up attacking to get that extra NP damage, and well, that is going to overall hurt your refund when it comes to finally launching that Noble Phantasm. So instead, let's focus purely on destroying bosses. When it comes to Morgan's quick card, we can give her an extra few critical stars off of that, or we can give her some sort of debuff, cleanse, or heal, something more utility focused. I recommend Hero of the Endowed on her. This is a few extra critical stars and a little bit of HP recovered. When it comes to Morgan's Buster cards, we want to focus on star absorption because those are our main cards we're going to be dealing damage with. Lady Justice is fairly excellent. It increases star absorption and also grants some critical critical stars off of those buster cards. You can also go with something like Electromagnetic Shamisen for a reduced but still pretty effective boost. And when it comes to Morgan's arts cards, well, I don't necessarily think you need to put any sort of star absorption on that. You can also use those as more of a utility for Morgan. Overall, gang, Morgan Le Fay is the buster farming queen, and is at least comparable with Arjuna Alter for title of best AoE berserker in the entire game. Her damage she is able to deal is substantial, and her ability to refund NP generation, while it may seem underwhelming during her release on NA, once she has Koyanskaya to be able to pair with, you are going to be able to just clear waves with absolute impunity. She is an incredibly powerful servant, and an incredibly popular one at that many characters are jealous of, because I'm sure you've seen all the Morgan Le Fay comics online of her relationship with the Master. She is overall an excellent character, both in a mechanical sense as well as a writing sense, and you should absolutely pull for her if you feel any sort of inclination towards her. Not only will you just be happy to have her in your Chaldea when it comes to having a character that is well written and likable, but on top of that, you have one of the, if not the strongest AoE berserker in the entire game at your disposal. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Morgan Le Fay. Let me know your thoughts on her down in the comment section below. Let me know if you think there are any allies, craft essences, or command codes that I might have missed. Let's go ahead and try and keep the Avalon Le Fay spoilers to a minimum in the comments, just because I'm sure there are NA players who haven't read it yet and really want to be surprised by one of the best arcs in Fate Grand Order. If you want to talk about Avalon Le Fay spoilers though, down in my Discord server there is a JP section where all things that have been featured on JP are free games. You can talk about all your FGO JP stuff right there. Take a gander at the Twitch, the Patreon, and the Ko-fi as well. Big thanks to everyone on all of those platforms, and of course a huge thanks to all of you on YouTube. Without your support, I wouldn't continue making these videos, so I really appreciate it. Anyways, gang, that's it for me, Kawaii50. I hope you all have a phenomenal day, and I'll see y'all in the next one.